All right, yes, indeed, it is. Once again, time for the Kanika Sports Show, everybody. And we are back with a baseball-centric Monday episode. I am your host, Kenny, and I am joined once again by the one, the only, Nika, everybody. Good morning, Nika.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Kenny. Today we are coming to you Monday live from the desert.
Indeed. There is a rain shower due to head in later this week. We'll keep you posted on the weather report, everybody. That might affect some spring training games later this week.
Didn't one of the spring training games got rained out in Arizona a couple days ago?
Yeah, a Padres game,
right?
Actually last Friday.
Oh, it was last Friday. Okay.
We don't get too many of those out here in Arizona country. All right. Well, boy, oh boy, I would be remiss if I was just not. It's hard to avoid the story of the hour, which is the Garrett Cole situation that is sort of broke last night and now into the early morning hours of this Monday. As the baseball week gets started, Garrett Cole is getting a second opinion on his elbow, which according to Baseball Insiders, is going to require the old Tommy John surgery. Tommy, can you hear me? Tommy is back.
Wait, is that a first Tommy John of the season?
No, some others have gone under already, but lower tier level pitchers.
Okay. But he's like the major one.
He is, yeah.
All right.
We're going to get into this later during our injury report. When did Garrett Cole know this is going to be something I think that's talked about and debated for quite a while, Nika. We'll wait and see. Hey, a sight for sore eyes at Chicago Cubs spring training camp, everybody. Kyle Tucker hits his first home run in Cubby Blue. It was also his first hit of spring training, so probably a big weight off of his shoulders. You know, whenever you go to a new team, you always press a little bit harder at first, don't you?
I would hope so. You got to show what you got.
But it does lead to maybe trying too hard at times and wanting to do too much with one swing. Nevertheless, you got to get that first one out of the way, I think, for things to kind of settle down in your mind. And like Juan Soto goes to the Mets, he does it in his first at bat. It's like, oh, huge weight off my shoulders. Thanks for grooving me one right down the middle, buddy. But Kyle Tucker was not having any of these kinds of moments yet. Finally gets his home run. We'll see if he starts to hit.
Okay. So does that improve his chances of getting an extension with the Cubs?
Well, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think he is, unfortunately, for Cubs fans, this year's Juan Soto. And he's going to go on the open market, at least if he has this big season. We'll see. His numbers are not too dissimilar from wonderful Juan Soto, and we'll have to wait and see what a year in Cubby Blue does to his numbers and what that makes him worth.
Yeah.
It could go either way for him. He did win or settle his arbitration case with the Cubs before he hit free agency, before he actually had to go to arbitration. So that got settled for $16.5 million this year, and he's worth more than that. I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see the Cubs do well this year, especially in Tokyo, everybody, which, boy, oh boy, Nika, we're like 8 days away from having a baseball game in Tokyo. I believe we might wake up early that Monday to a game. So I have to double check all the scheduling because Japan's ahead of us in time. So by the time it's Monday night there, it might be early Monday morning here.
Okay.
I believe that's the deal. And it might be Tuesday. So I have to see how the schedule shakes out and when we'll do our first, do our show after the first real regular season games of the year, the Tokyo series. But in the meantime, NFL free agency, everybody, has opened. I guess it's not open for business officially. They call this what is known as the legal tampering period, everybody. And basically, agents and teams have this time period between when their free agency has begun, from when they're able to actually sign the deal and when they're actually able to agree to the deal is a different time. So right now there's all these like backroom deals that are being agreed to by players. Like the Bears, for example, have upgraded their offensive line this morning, and that's exciting news for us. But they can't officially ink the deal, I guess, until Wednesday.
I see. So this is all like movers and shakers meet before.
There's a lot of movers and shakers. Great way of putting it. And we'll wait and see. There's a lot of talk going on the interwebs right now and on X and Twitter and all that fun stuff. So it's a fun day in the sports world, everybody. Just wanted to acknowledge that really quickly. But yeah, we got a great baseball-centric show for you guys planned today. We got breaking news as always. We have some fresh new rumors to get through. We got an injury list. It might be a short list, but it has some big names on it. We have some stop the presses to get through. Behind the box score, a fresh new, well, it's about the same person, so I don't know how fresh it is. But we also have a returning segment, everybody. Baseball School. The School of Baseball is going to be back in session. And extra innings. Some new segments at the end. Nothing really fancy in the names there. They are exactly what they sound like. Nika, without further ado, can we get to our breaking news, everybody?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention?
This bullet just handed to me.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
The first piece of breaking news that I got for everyone over the weekend was Garrett Crochet, who was dealt this offseason from the White Sox to the Red Sox. He traded Sox. He has set a deadline of opening day to get an extension from the Red Sox. He's basically under contract for 2 more years. And there's been talk about, wanting to extend him. Obviously, he's a highly coveted and talented arm. So he's put this deadline, and he has this quote saying, "For me personally, once the season starts, I would like for whatever conversations are currently being had to be placed on the back burner until the following offseason." He went on to note that he doesn't want the possibility of an extension to serve as a distraction for either himself or his teammates once the regular season gets underway. Nika, do you think he's going to get this extension done before the season starts?
I don't think so, but it's a great advice to have, because why would you want to have so many distractions when you're trying to have a great season?
Of course. I mean, like, we already see what's happening in Boston with Devers and Bregman. That's already a big distraction. And now you want to add more drama onto this?
And that goes also for the same knuckleheads that talk constantly, who's going to be MVP, who's going to be a free agent for the next season. Those are all distractions to a player. They all want to have a good season. And
I want to point out that he's not a free agent after this year, so the Red Sox have no chance of really losing him in the offseason. He's still coming back no matter what to their team unless they trade him. And I don't think they want to trade him. I think they're looking to extend him, but right now he's cheaper than if he goes out and has a great year next year. Now, if he doesn't have a great year this year, does he become cheaper for the Red Sox to extend? Or I'm basically saying, like, if he doesn't sign this extension, that I don't think he's going to get it next year either, because he's going to be in a different spot. Technically, he's either going to go out and make himself more valuable or make himself less valuable. And whether he does either one, I don't think he gets a contract next year either, because then he becomes high risk, high reward if he has a great season. And if he doesn't have a good season, there's no way he's signing an extension, because he's going to want to go out and prove to everyone that he's worth more.
Exactly. And
so
we know how coveted pitching is, how important it is.
Yeah.
And those
and how fragile it is.
Exactly. And those self-imposed deadlines, they don't necessarily come out the way
they don't work out well for the player in my experience. And while I think it's a good idea, like you said, to have deadlines and then move on so we can just focus on baseball, I still think it becomes like, you never know if it's going to be on somebody's mind the whole time. And it's like this unresolved issue that's now going to have to go through 6-7 months of waiting.
Yeah.
And that's never easy to accept. But at the same time, I think, once they get out there and start pitching and getting into the rhythm, we'll see what happens. Okay, Nicky Lopez, he is going to opt out of his minor league deal with the Cubs because basically he is a veteran and he has that right. And this isn't a big story by any means, but it's a precursor to a bigger story, which is that this is going to be happening all over baseball with a bunch of clubs. There's going to be a bunch of roster invites who were invited to spring training camps on minor league contracts. And they're not all going to make their opening day rosters. And the players that have enough service time and enough experience get this option to opt out and see if a major league team now with injuries and other cuts in their departments might require their services. So just a precursor to that all really. And Nicky Lopez is this year's first opt out and not the last by any means. So
other teams can plug their holes with those players.
Yes, exactly. Like there's probably going to be some teams that require a utility infielder. The Mets come to mind. Didn't they lose Nick Madrigal to a shoulder injury? So things like that, backup players, making your bench stronger. There's a saying in sports that you're only as strong as your weakest link. And so the idea is to be as up to date on everything as you possibly can be whenever possible. Okay. And then some breaking news this morning out of Tampa, everybody, where I'm not familiar with this situation, so to speak, so much, but the owner of the Rays, his name is Stu Sternberg. He is being asked by some of the fellow owners around Major League Baseball, as well as the commissioner's office now, to sell the team, to sell the Tampa Bay Rays.
So he's being pressured? Or
it seems like there is some pressure mounting.
Okay.
This is apparently due to some fallout over the destruction done to the Tampa Bay Stadium in St. Petersburg. And the county where this happened delayed some kind of a vote, which caused destruction damages to add up from this hurricane. And now the owner is saying, like, I don't want to pay for that because it wasn't my fault. I was ready to pay for the damage. And then this delay happened and now it's going to cost me more. And I don't think that it should cost me more because I was ready to open my pocketbook. And it's turned into like kind of an ugly situation. And there's like some deadline on March 31st about future stadium plans and stuff with Tampa. And I think MLB has made it clear that they are staying in Florida, despite the fact that it's like been a losing state for them since they got there with the Marlins in 1993. I don't think either team has like turned a profit. And you would think that baseball would be popular in a place where, the state is marketed as like the Sunshine State.
Too many boomers live there.
That, and I think we talked about it on the last episode that Florida baseball is trapped inside in dark places, and nobody wants to be at a baseball game in sunny Florida when it looks like, the interior of a locker room or a meat locker. It's like a dark place. I don't like either one of those stadiums on TV. And they use the Miami one for the World Baseball Classic Championship all the time, and I don't even like that stadium. It's so dark in there. It's like I forget we're in Florida. The Rays basically have a deal with the city and with the county that says they will pay for all the stadium upgrades, repairs, and things of that nature. But they're arguing basically that their delay caused this price to go up and they need more money from. I don't know all the details. I just know that now this has turned into an ugly situation where MLB is like, either get out of the way and let us do business with Tampa like we want, or get this resolved. We'll be following this and see what happens. Baseball teams changing ownership is a big deal, as we've seen here in San Diego with our beloved Padres and all the drama that's come from that situation. And, the Orioles have drama. The Twins have drama. It sounds like we don't need more drama. All right. Well, that's it for the news. But where there's news, Nika, there's rumors.
Are the rumors true?
I love rumors.
You're all vulnerable to vicious rumors.
Well, you know how this town is. People talk and they spread these cruel rumors.
Rumors? Rumors? Spread by whom?
There are rumors running wild. This morning on Twitter, on X, we mentioned the Japanese series is getting down in less than 10 days. I think it's 8 days away. And signs have started appearing in subways all around Japan. Actually, in public places all around Japan, but subway stations among them. And they just say have the Fortnite logo on them, conspicuously looking like MLB colors. And there's rumors swirling that Shohei Ohtani is coming to Fortnite, everybody, the world's most popular online video game.
What exactly is Fortnite for people that don't know?
Fortnite is a like elimination game, I guess, where you and a bunch of other players from around the world all get spawned into a map. And it's basically like you shoot each other with, in the game, and the last man standing wins.
But it's a free game online that you play
Correct.
through a console or PS, right?
It is a free game, and it's very popular because you
is.
play against other people, and there's like bragging rights that go with that, and dunking on people and all that crap.
And you can never save your progress. You always start from the get-go fresh.
Yeah, I mean, you advance in the sense that there's like a seasonal pass that gives you different skins and different looks, and that's really where the flexing comes in too. Is like, do you have the coolest looking skin or the dance emoji that was from this one limited tournament, or like it's just opportunity to win and earn certain things.
So if Ohtani gets in, do you think you will be running around with a baseball bat?
Maybe, yeah. And probably a Dodger uniform or some kind of skin with that. I'm not sure. We haven't played Fortnite in years now.
Yes.
We played it when it first came out, and we had some fun with it, but eventually it got old for us. But I'm not exactly sure how these limited time events work, but I would also guess there might be some kind of maps that might have like baseball fields or something instituted into it, some kind of baseball aesthetics, maybe. Who knows?
Okay.
It might be something where I think everyone parachuted in, right?
Yes.
And that was one of the fun
remember
aspects of the game. So maybe you can parachute into some hidden stadium somewhere. Again, it's a elimination game, and the last man standing wins. So, before we move on, one of the things I'm most excited about with this to see is if baseball and Shohei gets instituted into a video game, and how video game journalists will cover it, and to see what they know about baseball and Shohei Ohtani, because while he's a household name to anybody who watches and loves baseball, I still feel like he's not like Jordan level popular when it comes to the American mainstream media yet. And I think part of this comes from the fact that he comes from Japan. But we should also say he's huge in Japan. He's like the number one sports celebrity in all of Japan. And he has a bunch of endorsements from Japan playing on the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, meanwhile, have put their games on in Japan because they have the Super Japan team. But my point is he's huge in Japan, and he's a big sports star. And this is only going to make him even bigger. Like, video games in Japan are a huge thing as well. So this is going to be interesting to see. And as long as he stays healthy and does what he does, he will become as popular as Jordan eventually. I have no doubts. And he may even make baseball like a cool game again.
Well, hopefully,
I just don't think a lot of people know about him yet. As weird as that is to say.
because it's baseball.
Yeah. But hey, Shohei Ohtani is making baseball great again.
Okay.
All right. Well, we had some other rumors to get to, Nika, starting with an update on Big Sandy Alcantara from the man himself. Let's hear from Big Sandy.
I've read somewhere where you're going to be on a pitch limit. Is that true? And if so, what is the limit?
That's not true. There is no limit, no rule for me this year, and that doesn't came out from my coaches, the guy inside. They don't say nothing about it, and I think that just people on media throwing something that we don't say it, and we don't need to think about it because I'm healthy. I know the way that I feel. I know the way that I can compete, and this year there's no rule for me.
All right. Well, if you listen to our previous episodes, you'll know that Sandy Alcantara was, according to John J.P. Morosi, going to be put on some pitch count. He was going to be held back a little bit and kept fresh to make him more valuable at the trading deadline, potentially for the Marlins. Hearing from Sandy himself here, basically contradicting that rumor. Which one you buying here, Nika?
He has to be politically correct. He cannot come out and be dissenting voice.
Well, this is true, but I also would argue that Big Sandy here himself may not be included in the team's plans. And the place where the rumors are coming from could be coming from a higher office than the team locker room. As crazy as that is to say. But
I wouldn't be surprised if he is traded or loaned out before the All-Star game.
well, we've seen Florida's MO, and they brought in the fresh GM last year, and it's almost like they've been cleaning house over there. And Alcantara is from the previous regime.
He's the only contract that's left on that team from the previous regime.
All he does, yeah.
Everybody else is either a rookie or starting.
Right. I mean, Yuri Perez is there, but he's got his own injury that he's coming back from. And he's still young enough, I think, to be considered valuable, like his age.
Oh, he's barely 20. He's not even 22.
Yeah. He's already got major league experience.
Right.
And so
He does. And everybody else on that team is fairly young, too.
100%. So Alcantara is kind of like the odd man out, if you want to look at it that way. Alcantara, I don't remember how you say his last name, but Morosi threw me a curveball when I heard him say it, Alcantara. So anyways, Big Sandy, I'm actually going to side with upper management on this one. I think he is going to be limited, and I think he has no control over when the manager goes out and takes the ball from him every night.
There's no stipulation in his contract. The only thing is a club option in 27. That's it.
We'll have to wait and see. But I remember before he had his injury, was one of the few guys that was doing complete games. You know, I don't think he had like a handful or anything, but I do know he had one or two in that season before as Tommy John. And people pointed to that as maybe why he needed to go under the knife. And I just don't buy this stuff. All right. Well, one other rumor that jumped out at me. This was on X. This was from Ken Rosenthal, according to the tweet. The Cubs are keeping Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn on their radar in case issues arise after the team's early ramp up for spring training and long trip to Japan. Quote, at the moment, the Cubs aren't in a position to promise Gibson or Lynn a spot in their rotation, much less guarantee that either pitcher would make the major league club by a certain date, end quote. This made me chuckle and laugh a little bit, Nika, because I'm only wondering out loud, why wouldn't any team be looking at the two remaining like free agent pitchers left on the market? These are the bare bones bottom of the market pickups, right? Like hope and pray kind of pickups. I don't know why they wouldn't be on every team's radar in case of an injury right now or something. Like major league rotations look incredibly thin and fragile to me as it begins with. I mean, wouldn't the Yankees also be looking into this? We got an injury report coming up, but we already mentioned Garrett Cole. I just don't understand what we're doing here, guys.
And there's not many pitchers left to be so choosy.
It's not stop the presses, but just a funny little rumor here from Ken Rosenthal that I just wanted to call out really quick and be like, what team wouldn't be interested in these two in case? I get that the Cubs are ramping up, and I get that the Dodgers have 300 pitchers on their roster to choose from. But there is a lot of teams out there that are just hanging on by a thin thread when it comes to their starting rotation right now. So, all right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's, for this Monday's rumors. But we mentioned the injury list. Let's get to our injury report. Nika, can you cue the music, please?
Ready?
Yes, Doctor.
Doctor, give me the news.
I must confess, you have an astonishingly good idea there, Doctor.
Damn it, man, I'm a doctor, not a torpedo technician.
Dr. Harris,
Yes?
do you concur?
Is there anything you can do, Doctor?
Somebody give me a doctor. Somebody give me a doctor.
Somebody call Garrett Cole another doctor because he doesn't agree with his first one. And he apparently, according to all the rumors and leaks, has been told that he needs to have Tommy John.
Tommy, can you hear me?
And he doesn't like that. He doesn't want that. He wants to get a second opinion. Let's hear from our friend John Boy Media, our favorite lip reader. Everybody, he was at Disney World when I think this news must have broke. It makes sense he'd be in Florida. He's probably checking out Yankees spring training and things of that nature. Let's hear John Boy's reaction to hearing the Garrett Cole news.
Happiest place in the world. Garrett Cole needs Tommy John. Here I am. Happiest place in the whole world. Garrett Cole needs Tommy John surgery. We heard whispers of this when the opt-out situation happened, and then they were going to go get freed. Even before Soto, people were like, hey, expect them to get an ace because they think there's a high likelihood. So we heard whispers, so I'm not shocked.
I feel for him here, Nika. Let's be honest. If Michael King or Dylan Cease was going to go down, we would be sad for the Padres and understand what it would mean, and this is no different, I think, for the Yankees. You want to have two dominant starting pitchers at the top of your rotation nowadays to compete. And without Garrett Cole complementing Max Fried, and now also, let me remind you, Luis Gil is going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks at least. They're hurting, and more than ever, by the way, do they need Marcus Stroman back in their rotation. So he is the lucky guy in all of this, if Garrett Cole does indeed wind up having the Tommy John. But even if he doesn't, isn't he going to be out for a while, doing 5-pound weight drills to try and strengthen whatever is there to get through the rest of the season?
Will that be his second Tommy John?
Probably. I'm not 100%, but probably.
So the recovery time, he'll be out for a season if that's the case.
From now until at least, he might not even be ready until the middle of next year.
Yeah.
When you look at these recovery times, they're generally around 15 months.
If not longer, but the same applies with the brace.
Yes.
That's a long recovery.
That's a long recovery and a strengthening job to do. Because even if you have the brace put in, you are going under the knife. You're having an operation. You have to heal. You can hear it in John Boy's voice, which is why I mainly wanted to play the clip. But he also brought up an interesting point about Garrett Cole's offseason, where Garrett Cole, for a 24-hour period, had told the Yankees he was opting out of his contract, and then kind of changed his mind and said, you know what, I'll just keep it. I'll keep it existing. And if he would have decided to opt out and test free agency, I think even if he would have inked a new deal with the Yankees, they would have required him to have a physical, and any team would have. So by choosing not to opt out, he foregoed the opportunity to have any team image his elbow. And if you hear John Boy, he's saying that there was whispers that maybe there's some damage here. And we know Garrett Cole was shelved up for a while last year, but he was also pretty good in the playoffs and when they needed him down the stretch. So
maybe he had a little bit of injury, and then postseason happened. He put out everything on the line, and this is the result. Right.
I don't think he's 100% broken, but I think he's enough broken where they're telling him hey, get this done and fix it. And he doesn't like that answer. So he, like we said at the beginning of this, he's getting a second opinion right now, and nothing's been decided, but every day they wait is the longer day that he potentially will be back on the mound. So they got to make a decision really quickly about this. All right. Well, we're going to keep it in New York, on the other side of town in the Big Apple, where bad news in Metsville. The Mets have been just derailed by injuries so far this year. We mentioned Nick Madrigal already, who has that broken shoulder. That just sounds awful. And then we mentioned Sean Manaea and Frankie Montas, both with the oblique injuries as starting pitchers. Now they're starting catcher, the other part of that equation of the battery. Francisco Alvarez, he has a broken hamate bone. You might remember this from Mike Trout on our injury report. Once upon a time, he had a similar injury. Nobody knows really or understands how this happens, but you break a bone just by swinging a bat or gripping it too hard or something. It's interesting, and these guys are throwing hard heat, and if you jam yourself or something, I don't know. But he has a broken hand, and it's in his catching hand, As a catcher,
this is a tiny bone. It's not a big bone,
but it can hurt.
Oh, it probably hurts more than a bigger bone.
Yeah, it probably does. And I don't know if he might need hand surgery on something like this. I think Trout did. So they're saying he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks right now. This is a huge blow for the Mets. I mean, you're starting catcher, especially a quality player like Alvarez. We've seen how effective he can be.
The season for the East Coast is starting limping.
It is starting major limping, and the Big Apple has some big injuries to deal with. What's in the water supply over there, Nika?
Yeah, it's a good question.
All right. Well, we're going to move over to the West Coast of things where the Dodgers once again are facing a big pitching injury themselves. This is nothing new for the Dodgers. They have somehow gotten praised as being the best organization in baseball to pitch for, and yet they seem to have a pitcher going out for the season like almost every year, at least one or two. This week's victim is Michael Grove, who is now out for the season with shoulder surgery.
Oh, so it's not even a Tommy John. It's a shoulder injury.
It is not Tommy John. He already had the surgery, in fact, and it was a right labrum injury. Dave Roberts told the media that Grove attempted to pitch through the issue dating back to last season, but the club opted for surgery after the issue did not respond well to an off season of rest. So they were obviously trying to avoid this situation and thought, shutting down for a long period of time would help, but the body did not respond. So unfortunately, another starting pitcher gone for the Dodgers for the season. And we'll be tracking this. It's something I keep an eye on.
So this is the first casualty on the Dodgers.
This year, yes.
Okay.
But most likely, probably not the last. Now, they did have some minor injuries to their bullpen with Michael Kopech, and I don't remember their names, but getting stretched out, from the offseason. Sometimes that happens with these relievers and guys that don't pitch the long inning. Anyways, okay, moving on. Jurickson Profar, our guy from San Diego who signed that big 3-year, $42 million contract with Atlanta, had some scary visuals on Saturday afternoon, everybody. When Profar was diving for a catch and came up with a limp wrist. It was not looking so good, but apparently things looked worse than they really are. And Profar is going to be okay and ready for opening day, everybody. So that is good news for the Atlanta Braves, who I want to remind everyone just lost catcher Sean Murphy to fractured ribs and are already starting the season without Ronald Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strider, who are recovering from their surgeries last year.
More bad news for the East Coast teams.
Well, they're coming back.
Okay.
The only bad news really was Sean Murphy there. The good news is Profar is not too banged up, and the better news is that Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strider are recovering and due to be on the field as soon as they can be. They haven't gotten any delays or anything.
I just remember Acuna from the first injury from his torn ACL.
Yes. Being on the field and how you perform are two different things, and I think Ronald Acuna Jr., the first time he came back from his ACL surgery was only about 75% of Ronald Acuna Jr. So I don't expect him to come back and be that 300, 40 home run, 70 stolen base guy right away.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he won't be ever again, but I will probably guess that they will be taking it easy on his legs going forward.
No more stealing bases.
Not as much. And that's sad because you want Ronald Acuna Jr. to be Ronald Acuna Jr. that you know and love. But at the same time, as we've seen with Tatis even, we want him on the field more, you know? And all right, well, a couple of updates, everybody, before we move on. George Kirby and Grayson Rodriguez both are dealing with some shoulder injuries and are now going to start the season on the injured list officially for the Mariners and for the Orioles, respectively. So get well soon to both of those young arms. We need these young pitchers in the game performing well. So get well soon, guys, and get back out there. All right, well, that's the injury report, but we're going to move it on to a new segment, or newer, I should say. Stop the Press is when we call the media out on their BS, basically. This is when we hear something that just seems a little out of left field or not quite right, or just flat out wrong. So we're here for it all. And this morning I woke up and turned on MLB Network, which it was great because I'm now on West Coast time again officially, and I love that after the time change. Arizona, we don't change the clocks, and everyone else changes around us, and I hate it because football in the off season goes from starting at 10 a.m. to starting at 11 a.m. and it's like it happens between week 8 and week 9, and who can have this madness? But nevertheless, we finally went back to being on California time again, and I'm happy about that because I like to be on sync with the West Coast, and I like it when my sports start earlier in the day, everybody. All right, now that that's out of the way, I was up early on the couch listening to Cliff Floyd, everybody, on the MLB network, and I couldn't even find this clip on Twitter. I had to wait for the rerun to come around and capture it on my phone. Let's hear what Cliff Floyd had to say about Jacob deGrom, everybody, who is pitching again in spring training and coming back from his own Tommy John.
Now he's saying, I'm going to try to throw 97, 98. Okay, I get that. But that's taken away from him being the competitive Jacob deGrom that we've seen him be. Now, I know he can get out to a 97, 98. It's just a matter of how competitive the mind is, or what are you thinking about as far as being out the mound? Because you can't be thinking about anything else than getting big league hairs out when you're out there on that bump every fifth day. As I think that's the biggest question for them.
This really irritated me and got to me a little bit because I like Cliff Floyd generally, but I got to ask, why are we instituting chasing heat here? Like 97, 98 isn't fast enough. And also it's about location at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if somebody's throwing 92, 95, 98, 102. It doesn't matter if they're not hitting their spots. This is the major leagues. Someone will catch up to the ball. Someone will find a way to hit it fast enough, or they will walk the bases loaded because they can't throw a damn strike. Like,
you are 100% correct. And we've been talking about this for the past few years. The velocity and the heat, it's not the answer. You need sound mechanics and location and pitchers that deliver on innings, not just sit there 1 inning or 2 innings because their arms get tired after throwing 100 miles an hour heat all the time.
I just want a pitcher that looks free and easy up there, you know? Like,
doesn't labor.
They're not over-exerting themselves. They're not under-exerting themselves, you know? They're just sound fundamental mechanics. If that means it's 98 and not 101, okay, I'll live with that. As long as he's pinpoint accuracy with his spots, up, down, left, right, all over the zone.
Let them paint the corners.
And why? And what's wrong with pitching again? Like, can we make pitching great again?
Maybe.
Like, what is wrong with actually tricking people or throwing something unexpected? Or I'm just sick and tired of this. Like, oh, the batter's guessing, the hitters are guessing. You know,
I was always under the impression that pitching is an art form. You have to know how to paint the corners. You have to be sound on your mechanics. And for some reason, that's been forgotten.
It's gotten forgotten because of like Randy Johnson, you know, and yet the best to do it in my lifetime still was Greg Maddux. And he didn't throw more than 94 at his peak, but he was living at 92 fastball, but everything moved. Everything was designed to trick you. And you know, he pitched, that's the art. Randy Johnson, for all his heat, actually had art, you know. He would throw that slider down and in to righties as a lefty, and I would watch them swing over the top of it over and over again because they couldn't decipher the fact that it was a breaking ball and not a fastball. And that's how you use your 100-mile-an-hour heat to trick people, you know. Like, but I just, there's no pitching involved anymore.
Exactly.
Randy Johnson was 6'10", by the way. 6'10" and throwing 101 or whatever it was. But like, so the idea that these like 6'2", 6'3" guys should be able to go out there and do what a guy that's 6'10" was doing is ridiculous also. And
yeah, imagine Marcus Stroman doing that.
Marcus? You didn't drag poor Marcus along, did you?
Okay. Imagine Marcus Stroman standing next to Randy Johnson. Just imagine that for a second.
That would be like Altuve and Judge.
It might be more dramatic, actually.
More dramatic.
That's funny. I think the chasing heat game needs to end, especially when we're talking in the previous segment about Garrett Cole and going on Tommy John again. And it's like, I welcome a Jacob deGrom, like taking a little bit off and saying, I'm going to focus on my mechanics and being on the mound more than I am going to chase velocity.
The same thing applied to when Verlander talked about pitching, how the extended innings are kind of over, or the length.
Yeah,
the pitchers.
And that's why I'm calling Cliff Floyd out here. Your talking points are outdated, and you need to modernize and get with the times. And we need to start emphasizing this at the establishment network level, that chasing heat is causing Tommy John injuries. It's part of it. Chasing heat is causing bad mechanics that lead to Tommy John injuries. Maybe that's a better way to put it. But they're cheating the elbow up. They are not making a full circular rotation with the ball, with their arm, and that overexerting of the elbow it's all right there. You can see it. I don't want to get into this argument or whatever right now, but it's mechanically related.
Also, when you have to add the pitch clock, that psychologically makes you throw faster. It adds to the stress level that the pitcher is under when it goes on the mound.
Well, I don't believe that the pitch clock is like...
It's not contributing to that. I'm not saying that.
If you're constantly overexerting yourself, it might be.
For sure.
All right. Well, sorry, Cliff. I just disagree with you big time on this one. And I think you need to let Jacob deGrom evolve and age and pitch. Like, you're supposed to get wiser with age. And to me, this sounds like Jacob deGrom is getting wiser as a pitcher and wants to stay out on the field more and maybe get that third Cy Young, by the way, that would put him in the Hall of Fame and make him a lock. And also make a lot of investors of him really happy who held out hope. Okay, well, I'm hoping for it actually now because of this segment. Thank you, Cliff. Hey, I wasn't done hearing some interesting pitching news this morning, and this was more of a stop the presses because I couldn't believe what my ears were hearing, Nika. Our guy, Ken Rosenthal, I caught him on a microphone actually saying something nice about our San Diego Padres. Let's take a listen, shall we?
With Cease, it's been my impression from the beginning, and the way he has operated all off-season, that Padres GM AJ Preller wants to keep this team as strong as possible. He doesn't want to trade anybody, and he really hasn't traded anybody for all the talk. Instead, he's added Nick Pivetta and Jason Hayward and some other players as well. Nothing major in terms of salary for this year, even Pivetta, but he is trying to build the strongest team possible. So, while yes, the demand for Cease seemingly could be higher, should be higher given all the injuries, I don't necessarily expect a trade to happen.
Well, this is good news all around. I wanted Dylan Cease to stay here, and the fact that it's being reported now by insiders that the Padres really have no plans to trade him, at least anymore, is music to my ears. So I just wanted to start off with that. It'll be interesting to see if any teams up the ante with their offers, like the Yankees, if they want to potentially replace an arm like Garrett Cole. Dylan Cease would be an ideal fit, right? Like high strikeouts, swing and miss stuff.
He already wore black and white.
He already wore black and white and looked pretty good doing it. He would have to probably trim that beard, I would guess, but he could keep some of it according to the new Yankee rules.
Yep.
But it would be fun to see him go back to that mustache look too, because he looks like an old time baseball player when he has just a mustache. Like he looks straight out of the 1890s. Everybody
with the cigarette or without?
I think definitely adding the cigarette only enhances the illusion. And we did catch Dylan Cease on a hot camera, I think the night the Padres clinched their playoff berth last year, smoking a cigarette at Dodger Stadium, everybody.
It was a funny picture.
It was funny. Okay, well, always nice to hear from Ken Rosenthal. But
something positive, at least.
I'm still shocked that he said something positive about the Padres. And yeah, I mean, we got a great pitching staff in San Diego, by the way. And once again, have to play the role of surprise because no one has the Padres on their radar again this year. And that's fine with me. They will be in the playoffs, mark my words. They're too well managed, everybody. Well, we've stopped the presses, but now we have to go behind and go beyond the box score, everybody.
There are some things in this world that go way beyond human understanding. Things that cannot be explained, things that most people don't want to know about.
I wish it just meant runs and hits and errors, the things you can see in a box score.
Treasures beyond your wildest aspirations.
To infinity and beyond!
For the Indians, one run on, let's see, one hit. That's all. We got one goddamn hit.
All right. Well, this is our new segment, and I am victimizing the same person that I victimized the first time we did this segment. It's Blake Schnell, everybody. Blake Schnell is back, and well, there's a specific reason for that, and I do like to pick on Blake Snell. I'm not going to deny it because he's said some really highly offensive baseball things to me, like I tolerate walks as a part of my game. So he's low-hanging fruit for me always. And boy, did he deliver again for me yesterday, not only in the game performance, but also we're going to get to some media stuff that went on also this week with Blake Snell. So without further ado, let me tell you about Blake Snell's performance yesterday against the A's yesterday. This was spring training start number 2 for Blake Snell. And just to remind you all, in spring training start number 1, Blake Snell went 1 inning, gave up a hit, had a strikeout, no walks. Good for Blake, no walks, but 30 pitches in 1 inning. Okay. And that is like not what we want to see from Blake.
Okay, but that was his first game.
It is, but it's the pitch count that's got me concerned, and it's like something that he labors out there. Fair. He finds himself in so many full counts. And so yesterday I happened to be watching the Dodgers play the Athletics, and Blake Snell was pitching again. And I'm like, oh, good old Blake. I'm going to watch Blake and see how he does here. And I wound up catching like 4 innings of Blake, and it's the same stuff, Nika. It's laboring, you know, it's a lot of full counts, nibbling around the zone. It's the same thing. Like, I don't feel like he likes to get hit very much, you know? But the problem is yesterday he pitched a little bit longer. He went more than an inning. And he got into some trouble.
Oh.
He pitched 3.2 innings. He gave up 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 earned, also gave up a walk, had 5 strikeouts, and gave up a home run. 67 total pitches in 3.2 innings, and 41 of them were strikes. But I added his 2 spring training starts together, and I've seen that he's gone 4.2 innings total and thrown 97 pitches. And it's like, that's Blake Snell. 5 innings, 100 pitches. And then once he hits that 100 pitch mark, he thinks his job is done for the day, because he's like, well, I can't go more than that. And, you know, that's what modern analytics says. We shouldn't pitch more than that. So I'm not going to, you know, I remember when we watched him pitch that no hitter, and he like so viciously defended himself afterwards, saying like, I proved all my haters wrong and stuff. And it's like, yeah, you haven't proved nothing to me. The lessons that he should have learned during that no hitter, like trust your stuff and just let guys hit the ball sometimes.
Trust the players behind you.
That comes into it as well. I remember some great defensive plays by the Giants in that game as well, by Matt Chapman. And I forget who was playing center field because Jung-Hoo Lee was hurt already. But there was some great defense. I remember a center field catch that Ellie De La Cruz hit the ball. Anyways, I get so aggravated because he didn't learn that simple lesson from his no-hitter that like, oh, I can go deeper into games if I just throw a few more hittable balls. But I think sometimes he's afraid to get hit.
I think it rattles him. Every time a batter comes up and gets a hit, it rattles Blake. He doesn't like to respond to the ball being hit. All
right. Well, watching Blake Snell pitch yesterday was not a good sight for sore eyes. It was actually made them worse. Unfortunately, I also happened to catch some sound bites with my eyes, because they weren't audio sound bites, but they were written by journalists. And that's going to lead us to today's Daily Double, Nika. Oh boy, I love that sound. It gets me going. And well, first up, this article from MLB.com caught my eyes, and it says Snell counts Kershaw as a fan, Miller as a mentee. And this is an update to an earlier article from spring training where they were talking about how Blake Snell has taken Bobby Miller under his wing and mentoring him a little bit. And he does that with those 2 Cy Youngs, so I guess he can get away with it. But the thing is I would not look to Blake Snell as someone to model my game after at all. Like, someone that accepts walks as a part of their game is not someone you want to follow in the footsteps of. You're more than welcome to, Dodgers, if you want. But let's hear what Clayton Kershaw had to say about Blake Snell now that he's gotten a chance to spend some time around him at spring training. Quote, as a left-handed pitcher, you always look around the league and see left-handed pitchers that you like watching. Blake's definitely my favorite in the league right now. The way he can throw a baseball is special. It's just pretty, the way it comes out of his hand. Jeez, Clayton. Can we glaze any more over Blake Snell there?
I'm sorry. Did we watch the same Blake?
I don't know what he's watching here. I will give Blake Snell his no-hitter, as you just heard me describe, and even say like he should look to that game more as a way to pitch, because I was blown away that he actually trusted his stuff for once. We watched that game happen. You know, I watched it on TV. I was like, is he going to do it? Can he handle the pressure? You know, like all these things that I've criticized him for, he came through and delivered. The problem is he only did it once, and now he thinks like the world owes him an apology now, instead of becoming more consistently doing that. The problem I have is after he threw that no-hitter, he also left 2 games after like pitching an inning because he had a over-bloated pitch count and no control and walks again. And I'm just seeing that same guy here in spring training with the Dodgers. I'm not seeing a guy who signed early and that it's going to make some big improvement or dramatic change to his game. I'm not seeing it. I think we all agree the year Blake Snell won his second Cy Young, he had not great numbers, you know, like for a Cy Young award winner. I'm not trying to take it away from him now, but his walk totals were questioned. His inning totals were questioned because he doesn't go deep into games. Well, anyways, so there's a flip side to Blake Snell that I think when he's on your team and you've watched him pitch every single game, you start to understand that like over time, he can wear on you. He can wear out your bullpen by not going that extra inning every start. And some of these things will come back to bite you over a 162 game season. And I've called him not a great teammate because of that. And the way things went down last year with the Giants alone, like he wound up missing half the season because he signed late and then went on the injured list twice, including one time to just say like, look, I'm not ready. I'm not saying that, you know, he wasn't injured or whatever, but I'm just saying it's a weak excuse in a time when you're getting paid $32 million a year, I believe it was, from the Giants last year. And then he opted out. I want to remind everybody before I say this, because Blake Snell spoke to the San Francisco Chronicle this week, and this is the second half of our Daily Double, where we got some information actually about the Giants and how they feel about Blake Snell, because Blake Snell said, quote, "It was surprising. I thought they really liked me," end quote. This was in regards to whether or not the Giants contacted him or not, and they did not. They didn't even want him back. You know, they didn't want to renegotiate with him. A guy who threw a no-hitter for them last year.
Wow. That says volumes.
And then he went on to say, quote, "I texted Bob and he didn't reply." He's talking about Bob Melvin, by the way. "He didn't reply, so I kind of had a feeling," end quote. He had a feeling that they weren't interested. Wow. Not even a thanks but no thanks from your former head coach of 2 years with 2 different teams, the Padres and the Giants. And it made you wonder, did Bob Melvin go to bat for Blake Snell last year, and does he regret it?
It does make you wonder with that, because we said that's why he signed with the Giants.
Well, we did say that, and I think more specifically, we said it was a comfort level that Blake had with Bob Melvin of expectations. Like, Bob doesn't expect me to go 7 innings. He expects me to go 6 or 100 pitches. And it doesn't matter if I walk guys, because Bob doesn't care if I walk guys. He's tolerated from me in the past. So,
exactly.
And this is what, you know, and then it looks like as soon as he cut weight, they were done with him. They were like, oh, thank God he opted out of his contract.
Yeah.
I got to be honest here. As a former Padres fan that watched him, and I'm sure a lot of Giants fans are going to be joining you and me, we don't miss watching Blake Snell pitch for us. And is he capable of being great at times? Absolutely. I'm not going to deny that. However, I think there's just too much head case up there sometimes, and I don't trust him. I will never fully trust him because I don't think he trusts himself.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's one of the more frustrating pitchers to watch on the mound.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how the season goes for him with the Dodgers here. It's his first one, but will they be able to turn him around? I don't know. We'll wait and see. All right. Well, this has been Behind the Box Score, everybody, and we will continue to look at any eye-opening box scores that jump out at us so we can explain them to you. But just the latest in a another long line of outings from our guy, Blake Schnell. All right, with that, Nika, it's time to go to school. Are you ready to take us there?
Now, somebody please tell me where you left off in your textbooks.
We're here to learn. Anybody else have a problem with that?
If I need to ask again, I'm going to write up the entire class. Take your seats.
Recess is over.
Chewie, take the professor in the back and plug him into the hyperdrive.
Good, now we're having fun.
Welcome to the School of Baseball once again, everybody.
What is this all about?
Well, the School of Baseball is when, of course, we hear a player or a manager or even a baseball talking head personality explaining the game for us in a way that is easy to digest and fun to understand. And, well, this week I happened to catch our guy, Trey Turner, the inventor of baseball's electric slide.
And I'll teach you, I'll teach you the electric slide.
That's right, everybody. He was actually on MLB Network talking about sliding. And he actually offered up 3 points of advice for young baseball players to take with them. And I love when players give advice like this because this is actionable things that you can try out almost immediately. All right, well, without further ado, here is Trey Turner, everybody, speaking on how you can learn to slide like he does.
Trey, I was a guy that thought I was a pretty good slider. There's an art form to being able to slide. I want to ask you how you learned, how you might talk to kids or teach them about sliding, because it's kind of a lost form.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things. One, or I guess I should say 3. The feet first slide works just as well as a head first for the most part. If you do it right, you don't necessarily have to slide head first. But for me now with replay, there's 2 things. It's you want to get to the base as fast as possible, but also you need to be safe and stay on the bag. So there's some guys that slide too early and slow down, and there's some guys that slide a little too late and look like they're kind of crashing into the base. I'm a believer you try to do a little bit of both. So I try to stay in that middle ground where I want to get to the base as fast as possible, but when I make contact, I got to be able to stop and stay on the base and not have replay kind of get those cheap ones. So,
well, the first thing that jumped out at me, Nika, here was the sliding feet first. You see so many guys sliding head first and seeming like you have to. And here you have the best, I think, in the league at doing it. Somebody that went 40 for 40 without getting caught in stolen bases in recent memory does not slide head first.
He doesn't. And when he does slide, he has this fantastic pop.
Oh, yeah.
So smooth.
Well, and he even talks about that. He goes on to talk about that, like how it's basically he always pop-up slides, he says. And it's because he times it. He times his slide to end on the base, and I thought this was great advice. It's like you should be timing your slide to end and finish on the actual base itself. And too many people overslide when they're younger or underslide. They slide too early and it's detrimental.
We've seen a lot of players last season overslide the second base, specifically second base, and then they get injured. Yep. They either get their hand jammed because they slide head first and they overslide and they don't hold on to the base.
Correct. And so I think maybe not just the youngsters should be listening is what you're saying. And some of the major leaguers need to listen to Trey Turner here as well. Time your slides to end on the base. And I think pop-up sliding on second is the right play. We've seen Fernando do this a little bit.
Can you hear the drums, Fernando?
He has some acrobatics out there when he runs the bases with doing the splits and stuff. But yeah, I think it's all about, he brings up a great point about timing. That's all. And he also brought up a great point about home plate, how you can actually slide later there because it doesn't matter. It's the one place where you can slide late is home.
And you can overslide too.
That's what he means. It's like once you touch the thing, it's over. Once you touch the plate, it's over. So there's no like oversliding of home plate.
So the most important timing is when you slide to second base.
Or third. Yeah, no, I think this was great. I'm glad we caught this. I'm glad it brought an opportunity to bring this segment back. I actually have a couple videos stashed away, for some future school sessions if we need to fill some time. But this was great, and I'm glad that we got it this week. And I'm glad we got to welcome everyone back to school, even though it's March and people are probably getting spring fever and ready to go on summer vacation. Hey, there's no summer vacation from baseball school, everybody. So we'll be here all summer long with some educational lessons of the diamond for you. All right. Well, with baseball school being over, everybody, it is time to bring this podcast to its conclusion with a little bit of extra innings, a new segment that we are debuting here today, along with the revival of baseball school. All right. Well, extra innings is just a place for anything extra that we find and want to talk about that maybe doesn't fit into any of our existing buckets or categories yet. And I always look for an opportunity to feature one of my favorite players in the game, Fernando Tatis Jr. And I happened to catch a little interview, hot microphone with him on X. This comes to us from the MLB Network radio on Sirius XM, everybody. And this was Fernando Tatis talking about how he's going to try and stay healthy in 2025 by incorporating some offseason work from his friend, Manny Machado.
You got a guy in the clubhouse next to you, Manny Machado, who's been through a lot of this. What are you learning from his offseason and off-field habits with how he invests himself that you're trying to apply to your own career?
Yeah, we have talked a little bit, how his off-season looks like, how his spring training, most importantly, looks like. And, we have checked into those boxes, and I've definitely learned from him a lot of stuff. And just put it into play right now. But Manny has shown definitely how his ability to keep himself in the field, and that's definitely I'm looking forward to accomplish.
Well, Fernando's not giving away a lot of enlightening information here as far as specifics, but the one thing that does jump out to me, and I think I would argue that this is true, is that the Padres seem to have more of a family relationship as teammates, and especially with their coach right now too, Mike Schilt. There's just this idea that they're a family a little bit. You get it more vibes than you do with other teams. Maybe the Mariners, for example. There's just this idea that we're a family, and I don't know where that all started or comes from, but I kind of like it. And we've seen Manny and Fernando have good moments, great moments, and also hard moments together as teammates, and Manny held him accountable. Everybody remembers that famous clip in the dugout, where he was yelling at him saying, "You're the best in the world. You act like it," So
also, Fernando sounds a lot more mature in this video. A lot of times he comes off, funny or goofy, but this one was more of a mature player, Fernando.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, this is what leads to, I think, being on the field, is it being mature about your business, right? Yeah. The more you take care of your body and yourself in the off season, the better off you're going to be. And if you look at Manny Machado, by the way, which I did this morning, I happened to, if you take away his rookie year, which he only played 51 games, he plays over his career in an average of 140 games a season. And he only missed significant time in one of those seasons. And that's a long time ago. And I don't want to jinx him or anything, but you talk about a rock for your team. And we talked about how he played hurt the year Tatis was injured and never came back because of the suspension. And then before the Soto trade, he had a bum ankle and he played through that pain. We watched him do it. And so he is a leader among men sometimes out there, Manny Machado, and doesn't get enough credit for that. The Ken Rosenthal's of the world would rather talk about, the questionable things that have happened maybe on the field that might or might not be true.
Oh, it's more sensationalism. That's all.
That is all. So anyways, I like how you put it. I like that Fernando is showing maturity here by realizing like, hey, I need to stay on the field more. That's my job. And oh, by the way, like we need to win. We want to beat the Dodgers. I need to be on the field in order to do that.
Absolutely. And then you have Merrill that is also very mature for his age.
He just has a baseball player mindset.
That's true. But it's nice to see two players that are very young having more mature responses on the field.
Yes, I agree. And as far as Tatis and Merrill go, I hope they're playing outfield together for quite a few years.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
It'd be great.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on this episode of the Kanika Sports Show, everybody. We had a lot of fun putting this one together and looking forward to the start of the MLB season coming up like 8 days from now. We'll be having Cubs Dodgers in Tokyo, everybody. Get ready, get set. We are off and running. Soon to be. Stay healthy out there, everybody. I would like to keep these injury reports short like they were today. And also, no more big names, please. Like, let's get through spring training. Let's get through healthy, and let's have a great season.
They're singing, go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go!
Go Cubs, go!
Go Cubs, go! Go Padres! We'll see you on Friday, everybody. Have a great week.